It's 1899. Barcelona is a city full of ambition, industrial, cosmopolitan, deeply proud of its Catalan identity. Into this city comes a Swiss football enthusiast named Joan Gamper. He places an advert in a local sports magazine. 11 men respond. On November 29th, 1899, FC Barcelona is founded. From the beginning, the club is international. Swiss, English, Catalan founders side by side. And from the very beginning, it means something more than football. You have to understand what Catalonia was experiencing at the time. Under Franco's dictatorship, all of that was actively suppressed. Speaking Catalan in public could get you in serious trouble. But football? Football was harder to suppress. Camp Nou became a place where 90,000 people could sing in Catalan, wave the senyera, the Catalan flag. They could express an identity that was being crushed everywhere else. The stadium wasn't just a football ground. It was, for a generation of Catalans, one of the only places they felt free. That's what Messi Club really means, not a marketing slogan, a lived reality built over decades, written into the DNA of this club. Now, you can't tell the story of Barcelona without talking about the man who changed everything, Johan Cruyff. Cruyff first arrived as a player in 1973. Even that transfer was an act of defiance. He famously refused to sign for Real Madrid, in part because of their association with the Franco regime, and chose Barcelona instead. He immediately became a hero, not just because he was brilliant, arguably the greatest player of his generation, but because he got it. He understood what the club meant to the city, but his real legacy came as a manager. When Cruyff took over as coach in 1988, he didn't just build a winning team, he built a philosophy, a way of playing and thinking about the game that would define Barcelona for 30 years. Possession, pressing, movement. The idea that football should be intelligent, beautiful, played on the front foot, with courage and creativity. His team, the Dream Team, won 4 consecutive La Liga titles, and Barcelona's first ever European Cup in 1992. But more importantly, he planted an idea. And that idea grew into something called La Masia. La Masia, the farmhouse, is Barcelona's legendary youth academy. Founded in 1979, shaped by Cruyff's philosophy, it became the factory that produced the most extraordinary generation of footballers the game has ever seen. Xavi, Iniesta, Messi, Puyol, Valdez, Piqué, Busquets, Pedro. All of them came through La Masia, all shaped by the same ideas: technical excellence, positional intelligence, and an unwavering belief in the Barcelona way. It's almost impossible to overstate how remarkable that is. One academy, one philosophy, a generation that conquered the world. And then came Pep. In 2008, FC Barcelona appointed a 37-year-old former player with almost no senior coaching experience. His name was Pep Guardiola. And what followed was the greatest period of sustained excellence in club football. Think about what his Barcelona did. In his first season alone, the treble, La Liga, Copa del Rey, Champions League. In 1 year. It had never been done before by a Spanish club. But it wasn't just the trophies. It was the way they played. The tiki-taka of that era, relentless, suffocating, hypnotic possession game. It was something football had genuinely never seen at that level. Other teams didn't just lose to Guardiola's Barcelona, they were bewildered by them. You'd watch a match and think, how are they doing this? How does every player always seem to be in exactly the right place? That night at the Bernabeu in May 2009, 6-2, away, against Real Madrid, one of the greatest performances in the history of El Clásico. Messi got 2, Henry got 2, Puyol's header, Thierry Henry sliding in at the back post, Madrid fans giving a standing ovation to the visiting team. That doesn't happen. That almost never happens in football. But that's what Guardiola's Barcelona made people feel. In 4 years under Guardiola, Barcelona won 14 titles from a possible 19. They played football that is still studied, still discussed, still imitated by coaches at every level of the game today. Players like Xavi and Iniesta were reframed not just as great footballers, but as artists, as thinkers. When Guardiola left in 2012, it felt like the end of something, and in some ways it was. But the shadow of that era still falls across everything Barcelona does. We have to talk about Messi. I know that the GOAT debate has been done to death. But just for a moment, set aside the debate and consider what Lionel Messi did for FC Barcelona specifically. He arrived at La Masia as a 13-year-old boy from Rosario, Argentina. The club paid for his growth hormone treatment when his family couldn't afford it. He grew up inside this institution, shaped by its values, its style, its identity. And then he became the greatest player in the history of the club. Some would say the history of the sport. Consider the numbers. In competitive matches for Barcelona, 778 appearances, 672 goals, 305 assists. He won the Ballon d'Or, the world's best player award, 6 times while at the club. 6 times. He won 10 La Liga titles with them, 4 Champions Leagues, 3 FIFA Club World Cups. He is so woven into the fabric of this club that when he left in 2021, fans wept in the streets outside Camp Nou. There's a clip that I always come back to. The goal against Getafe in 2007, often called the greatest goal ever scored. He picks the ball up in his own half, runs past 5 players, rounds the goalkeeper, and slots it home. The commentator just screams his name over and over. What else is there to say? Messi didn't just play for Barcelona. He was Barcelona for a generation of fans. And no matter what comes next for either of them, that bond doesn't break. No story about Barcelona is complete without talking about Real Madrid. El Clásico, the fixture between these two clubs, is the most watched club football match on the planet. Billions of people tune in. And the reason it carries that weight isn't just because both teams are brilliant. It's because the rivalry runs so much deeper than football. Madrid, the capital, the seat of centralized Spanish power versus Barcelona, Catalonia, the region that has always pushed for its own identity and autonomy. When these two clubs meet, that entire political and cultural tension is played out on a football pitch. Every tackle carries history. Every goal is a statement. Some of the most extraordinary moments in the sport have happened in El Clásico. The 5-0 in 2010. Messi's iconic finger-pointing celebration at the Bernabeu. Ronaldo and Messi trading ridiculous individual seasons, year after year after year. Even if you don't care about either club, El Clásico is unmissable television. There's nothing else like it in sports. Now, I'm not going to pretend the last few years have been straightforward for Barcelona. The financial collapse that forced Messi out in 2021 was genuinely shocking. A club of this stature, one of the richest, most powerful football institutions, suddenly unable to register their own players. Because of debt that had spiraled out of control, it was humbling. And it led to a lot of difficult questions about how the club had been run. But here's the thing about FC Barcelona. The story never stays down for long, because in the middle of all that turbulence, something quietly remarkable was happening. La Masia was doing what it has always done. Pedri, elegant, composed, playing like a young Iniesta with a hint of Xavi thrown in. Gavi, ferocious, energetic, all heart. And then there is Lamine Yamal, who made his professional debut at 15 years old, playing in La Liga, and looking completely at home. The wheel keeps turning, the academy keeps producing, the philosophy keeps living. Whatever happens next with the finances, with the stadium rebuild, with the squad, Barcelona will always have that. The belief that if you develop players the right way, with the right values, and play the right kind of football, you will compete at the top. Not every year, but always. Again and again. Because that's who they are. So, FC Barcelona. What makes this club special? What separates it from almost every other institution in world football? Is that it has always stood for something. Not just winning, not just money. Something. A style of play that values intelligence and beauty. An academy that bets on developing human beings, not just footballers. A connection to a city and a people that goes beyond sport, that carries real political and cultural weight, and a history packed with some of the most thrilling football and extraordinary players the game has ever produced. Is it a perfect club? No. No club is. The financial scandals, the political tensions, the missteps, they're all part of the story too. But when you watch Barcelona at their best, when the pressing is clicking, when the passes are flowing, when some 17-year-old kid from La Masia does something that makes the whole stadium hold its breath, there's nothing quite like it in football. Més que un club. They're right. It really is. Now, if you've made it this far, you clearly love football as much as I do. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. It's right there. One click. Because I'm making more videos just like this one, deep dives into the clubs, the players, the stories that make football the greatest sport on the planet. Coming up next, a full breakdown of the greatest El Clásico matches ever played. A look at the complete history of La Masia and every player it's produced, and an honest analysis of where Barcelona go from here. You don't want to miss any of it. And hey, drop a comment. Are you a Barça fan? Who's your favorite player? I read every single one. And those comment section debates are genuinely some of my favorite things about making these videos. I'll see you in the next one. Visca el Barça!